Hey guys, I am super excited today because we've got a special guest. We've got Steve Rath, and he is an absolute superstar. Steve has just got this incredible background that we're going to really dive into about a little bit of a different background. He's been in the business a long time, but really a unique background, and I think it's really played well to his strengths. So, Steve, why don't you give us a quick little bio on yourself, what you did before real estate, and what prompted you to enter the business?
Well, I've been in the business for over 34 years now. So I got in it in '88 when the end of another really hot market and the beginning of the 1990 crash. So I've been through the ups and downs of real estate for a long time. And I began. I was I was in the Air Force. I was an engineer in the Air Force, but I always loved business. And I actually went to San Diego State for business, but then transitioned into the Air Force because of life circumstances. Um, so I got into the business, and I did it like a lot of people do. I was doing it part time. It was actually I had a job that offered I could manipulate my schedule so I could do both full time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried that for a couple of years and just decided real estate is where I wanted to be, and went full force at it, and was surprisingly in the early 90s, kind of a tough market. I was very successful then. And then 8 years later, I got my broker's license and joined with some other partners and bought a business in Fair Oaks, California. And here I am today.
So that's really interesting. And I know you partner with your wife, Chris, now, who's
Yes.
got an amazing background herself. But it's a really interesting dynamic because you don't see a lot of engineers who made a successful transition into the sales world. What's been kind of your strength? I mean, you bringing some unique strengths to the market. Maybe that's your differentiation point. I don't know. How does that work out?
The funny thing is, engineer and real estate agents talk about it. If you're dealing with an engineer because they're professionals. They want
Right.
details. They want to know A to B what you're going to do for them and how it's going to go. And so I have that in me, but I'm really I love people, and that really is my passion. So I like the engineer side of it, the mathematical and technical part of it, but I more like meeting people. So it's an odd mix for a salesperson to be an engineer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it does bring I have a kind of an organized chaos about me. I know exactly the steps I need to do things, and that's the engineering side. But again, the people person side is really who I am.
Nice. So this is interesting because I think there's a lot of parallels, especially for our listeners that are maybe have entered the business not 34 years ago, but maybe entered the business when it was a little bit busier than it is, and now they're seeing this kind of collapse. And you went through the same thing, coming in the business in '88, pretty decent market, and then the market starts to roll over in the '90s. I'm the same way. I entered the business in 1989. We have a very similar timeline in the industry. So I've been in 33 years, you're 34 years. So talk to me about how you went about, first of all, dealing mentally with the declining market, but also what did you do to get your business going? What was your secret to success?
I was too young in the business to really know I was in trouble. so really you do the basics. And
Yeah.
I just was doing my goals for next year. And in my goals, it's getting back to the basics. And that is, and you hear it often, just showing up. Just the open houses and meeting people and telling people what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get out of that, especially when you're in a super hot market where business just falls in your lap.
Yeah.
Same thing with taking listings. It used to be, or for the last at least 8 years, it was very easy to take a listing and sell it, multiple offers. Everything was, you were glorious. But but it's changed. So now you really have to think about how to sell listings and how to treat buyers and how to put your name out there and do the best job you can for your clients. So it's getting back to basics, and that's what I did back then. I did open houses ad nauseum. I did mailers. I never knocked doors. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
But but I did everything else just to tell everyone I knew what I was doing.
It's really interesting. I just was listening to another national speaker this morning, and he was on a podcast, and he brought up like the top 3 or 4 things to do in this market. And one of the number one things, back to basics, open houses. Just
Yeah.
going out there. It's like your satellite office. You got to work somewhere. You might as well work in a spot where you can actually collect some business at the same time. So it's really interesting you brought that up. So talk to me about your approach to buyers today, because of course buyers are a little bit more nervous about the market than maybe they were a year ago. How's your conversations changing today?
I love working with buyers, always have. And in fact, we just closed on a house with some first-time buyers, 25, 26, saved a long time to get that down payment. Market's changing, very nervous. Is this the time to do it? And I explained that this is actually a good market, and there's still great deals out there. They're all over the place. You just have to know how to find them, or have a realtor that knows how to find them. So that's the conversation. Is that I just heard a thing, I think it was yesterday. It said the quote was, "The best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago." And it's so true. I don't care where you look in history, the best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago. And it's very true right now. So yeah, the market's going to adjust. It's going to slow down. We're still in, for the most part, a seller's market.
Yeah.
So we haven't even hit equilibrium yet. We're still not at a normal market, but we're headed towards that. And that the fear that the market is changing is kind of takes hold of the market, and also the media. They sensationalize the changing market like it's doomsday,
right?
And it's not. We're headed toward normal right now, and it will adjust. The prices will adjust off the highs, but good properties over the next 5 years are still going to go up in value. So
a great quote, kind of like what you're saying about the best time to buy is 5 years ago, is you're not buying the market, you're only buying a specific home. I'm going to find you the best home. And that's kind of right along the lines of what you're saying, right?
That's it, exactly. And yet the conversation has to be especially with buyers now, is that they were so used to having to jump on every property that hit the market. So the inventory is going up. The number of new listings is going down. Inventory is going up. What that means is that there's a lot of junk that's not selling.
Yeah.
So they've been programmed over the last few years that anything on the market is worth taking a look at. So that's the adjustment for a realtor to try to explain to them is, no, that's not a good house. In a changing market, especially that's adjusting in price, you don't want to jump into something that is really not a good investment. So I really try to stress the investment side of what they're doing, even to they kick and scream. Well, what about that one? No, it backs to a busy road. What about that one? No, it's in one of the worst neighborhoods I can think of. So it's trying to adjust their mindset to what the market is, and the expectations is the biggest part.
I like that, because what you're doing is you're almost like a concierge. You're really giving them like this high level service and pointing them in the right direction against what they might think is their best direction, which is really
exactly. There was I guess I could say it. A couple that we were showing properties to, she kept sending me emails. I send the daily updates to them. Sure. And she kept asking about this property it's a street called Rutledge. And she kept sending it. And I kept saying, no, not a good property. And I would explain why I was thinking along those lines. And she kept sending it. So finally I took her out to see. And this thing is a dog. I mean, and it had fleas. So this was just a terrible investment property, and it showed.
Sure.
So we saw that one. I said, that's why I didn't want to show it to you, but I showed it to you just so you knew where I was coming from. So from then on, every time she would call on a property that I didn't like, I'd say, that's a Rutledge.
That's a great example.
She got it.
I love it.